All right, hey folks, in today's video, I'm going to make the case that the majority of people who struggle with their body fat in the long term are not where they want to be because they don't know how to diet, but actually because they don't know how to bulk. So, sounds counterintuitive, but actually it makes all the sense in the world. And I think it's the factor that people miss out. As a result, they never really get their goals. They're constantly obsessed with the best diet, and then they fail their diets, they look for another diet, they try fasting and keto and all kinds of stuff. What they need is to bulk better. I'm going to make the case for that in today's video by also sharing with you what I did in my first year of training with regards to diet. So sit back, relax, enjoy the talk while we're here. Drop a comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already, hit a like, of course. And if you're interested in coaching, there's a link in the description. So let's just take it back, right? A lot of people who I speak to, they struggle with their body fat, and it's a long-term problem. They end up being kind of skinny fat to fat, and years later, decades later in some cases, they never really fix the problem. But if you speak to them, they know all the latest diets, they know all the latest tricks and hacks. But if you look at them, after every cut phase they do, they don't really look that much different. They never really progress to the point where they're advanced. Many of you guys have followed my channel now for what, 3 years? I did my first video in 2021. I would like to know how many of you have progressed to where you can legitimately call yourself an advanced lifter if you've been following me for 3 years. I think fundamentally, what I'm about to explain is probably one of the biggest reasons, because it's a tactical error. It's a strategy error. It's an error of where you place your focus and attention. So let me just lay it out. I'm going to lay it out in 4 statements. My first statement is this. If you want to be leaner overall in the long term, in a sustainable way, you need to favor bulking rather than cutting. Because this is what I see as the average life cycle of somebody who's kind of small, doesn't have much muscle, but still holds some fat, or perhaps even holds a lot of fat. What I see is when they decide to get in shape, when they get all motivated and they go onto YouTube, they go onto these well-meaning idiots who just shout at you all day and tell you to choose discipline over excuses, the type. They get all motivated, they starve themselves, they perhaps go on a OMAD diet, 1 meal a day, fasting, keto, all that kind of stuff, right? Nothing wrong with any of those things, but it's just part of the profile. They do that, they cut hard, they cut fast. Perhaps they have some degree of success. Perhaps it works for a while. They get down to a low body fat for them. And then within 1 or 2 months, they rebound and they binge back up to their previous weight. And they've probably been doing that for years and years. The reason that they do that is when they diet down, they have to go so low in calories, it's unsustainable. That's the first reason. And secondly, there's always a hint of disappointment. I think for a lot of people, because they don't have much muscle, when they do diet down, they just look like smaller versions of themselves previously. You've probably had that experience if you fit into this category of people. Again, not you guys. My audience, of course, are jacked intellectuals, but you get what I'm saying, right? So that's my first statement. Most people who fall into this trap, they overly favor cutting and neglect bulking. Their cuts and bulks typically look very different. Cutting is a strict, discipline-fueled effort with lots of Rocky and David Goggins playing in the background. Their bulks are just basically going back to how they ate when they got fat in the first place, just binging. And one of the worst consequences with these people is they end up just falling out of love with the process, because the only time they're actually committed to the diet is when they're in a calorie deficit. So it feels like they're constantly cutting. That's enough to drag anyone down. And what I see with a lot of these guys who come to me is they've been trying to get lean, they've been trying to diet and actually have a reasonable beach physique, a sustainable physique. They've been trying to do that for years and they've never had any success. And I think that can wear on a person. And in the end, the worst thing that can happen is you just get jaded. You lower your expectations. If you go into this whole bodybuilding thing thinking, yeah, I'm going to gain 20, 30 pounds of muscle. I want to be an advanced natty. And then over time, you sort of downgrade your expectations. It's like, I'm getting old, got the kids. I think that's one of the worst things to happen, you know? I really do. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think, and I'm explaining in this video, it's a strategic problem. It's not necessarily a problem with your genetics. It's a strategy problem. If you're ignoring one entire side of the equation, that is bulking, you're never going to succeed. It's due to the wrong strategy, I think. I think if more people paid a lot more attention to bulking, they would have more muscle. They'd also spend less time cutting, so they'd create less diet fatigue, which is also very real. A lot of these guys I speak to, they're absolutely sick and tired of dieting. They see it as a chore. Whereas if you've been bulking for 10 months, you've gained 40 pounds or whatever it is, bulking is great. I mean, cutting is a relief, you know? So for the most part, with these guys, it's almost like cutting is a 4-letter word, and it shouldn't be. It should be part of a holistic plan. As I say, I can guarantee for you guys who absolutely are at the point where you're at your wit's end and you hate cutting, it's because you've been doing it far too much and you have neglected bulking. So that's my first statement. Second statement is this. To actually change your physique and to grow a large amount of muscle, you need a long bulk where you add significant muscle on your frame and significant tissue. You need to spend a lot of time in a surplus and at a higher body weight, gaining muscle and strength. This is the way it's done. And to take you back to what the series is about, my first year of lifting, I gained 40 pounds during the course of that year. I gained 20 pounds of muscle and 40 pounds in total, which, by the way, is an excellent rate of muscle gain, muscle to fat, because it was my first year and I trained very effectively. If you're gaining 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 pounds, you're going to come out with some muscle mass, probably not 20 pounds, but definitely some, and a lot more than if you just gained 10. This is the point. Long bulks, where you push your body weight up by 20 to 50 pounds, that's what's actually going to be worth your time. Then when you diet down, you'll actually see a difference. What I tend to see a lot of is people on reasonable bulks, they're doing okay, they're gaining muscle, they're gaining strength, and then they decide, okay, I've gained 10 pounds, I'm going to cut it short. They ruin all the muscle building momentum, they ruin the muscle building processes, and they're back to cutting where their training sucks. I think it's a waste of a bulk. And what I'll say is every single guy that I know who is actually big and strong, by the way, including the guys who recommend short bulks and small bulks, they all actually became big by doing long bulks, adding a lot of muscle. That's what they did. So we can't escape reality. I think being true to reality is extremely important. I don't want to mislead you guys. If I turn around and say, look, yeah, my bulk was uncomfortable. And yes, it was. That 40 pounds was not comfortable, even at age 18. If I turn around and say, no, you guys don't want to do that. You want to gain lean. You want to gain small. Do 10 pounds, then cut. Do 10 pounds again. If I told you that, I'd be doing you a disservice, because that's not how I did it. I didn't gain mass like that. And I would say very few people do. In reality, look at all the content creators which I regularly mention on this channel. The guys who I like, my friends in the YouTube space, Paris Butler. I do believe at time of speaking, Paris is over 200 pounds. And I'm pretty sure, he can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he got down into the 160s at the start of this book, which was a long time ago. GVS, Jeffrey, also regularly goes up and down 30, 40 pounds. Same with Alex, regularly up and down 30, 40 pounds. That's how it's done. That's how everybody does it. I understand lifters get lifting amnesia and they look back with rose-tinted glasses and they think, yeah, maybe I should recommend you guys don't bulk as heavy as I did. That'll be safer. But it's not reality. It's not what happened. It's that lifting amnesia kicking in again. So this lends to the original problem of people trying to get lean. They overfavor cuts. So they cut frequently. When I spoke to a guy in my Instagram DMs last year, 155 pounds, 155 at a reasonable height. And he said to me, how often can I mini cut? Bro, you're 155. You need to bulk. But this is what these people are being told by the small bulk crowd. Yeah, you can mini cut whenever you feel a bit uncomfortable, after 10 pounds, after 8 pounds. and it's fine. But all they're doing is you're just continuously interrupting their gaining. Now, as a result, they never gain significant amount of muscle tissue. So they always have to just stay small because they never actually gain. So if they are naturally a little bit fatter, they're always in diet mode, always, because they never get bigger. By holding on to 20, 30 pounds more of muscle, you can look lean year round and hold more body fat on your frame and still look good. But these guys never get to experience that because they've been told and misled by people recommending small bulks. Yeah, just gain 10 pounds, do cut again. I would even say a recomp is a better strategy than gaining a small amount of weight and then cutting again. Because at least with a recomp, you're eating a good, healthy amount of food regularly, every day. You don't get that if you do short bulks and then short cuts. You're just always interrupting the growth cycle. So I think recomp is actually a better strategy than what some of these guys try to do. Really, if we look at the logic behind short bulks and cuts, like 10 pounds up, 10 pounds down, the logic and the appeal is that people are trying to do that so they don't get very fat. But that is short-term thinking. You're also never going to get very muscular doing that. So in the end, you're still going to be 150 pounds, where you could have been 180 pounds of hulking mass. I'll try to add in some before and afters of clients here as well, who I've worked with over the last year, who I've transformed because they listened to me and they committed to the bulk. So my third point is short bulking and cutting cycles not only are pointless, but they're actually harming your progress in the long term if you're trying to stay lean. So not only are they counterproductive for staying lean, but you're also going to stay small. Because typically speaking, people who struggle with their body fat just aren't going to be able to sustain the calories needed to be low in body fat. That's why they're overweight. Whereas if you gain 20, 30 pounds of muscle, it's a lot easier to maintain that weight. It's a lot easier for me now to maintain a lean weight because I'm 195 pounds. I'm almost 200 pounds right now. I was just over 200 pounds on my recent bulk. Now, when I first started training, I was a skinny fat 150 pounds. That's a big difference. If I had never started training, I would have been a very, very fat 200 pounds. Whereas now, I'm a relatively lean 200 pounds. So, yeah, the logic behind these short bulk cut cycles is flawed. Yeah, you never gain much fat, but you also never gain much muscle. So in the long term, you stand still. You never improve. So first three opening statements, I'm almost done. The first one is to favor being lean and muscular in the long term. People overly focus on cutting and they neglect bulking. You need to bulk. Second thing is long bulks where you add significant amounts of tissue and spend a long time in a surplus at a bigger body weight, handling bigger weights are always going to be better to grow muscle. And the third thing is short bulk and cut cycles, while well-intentioned, try and keep you lean, all that stuff, they don't result in a lot of change because they don't move the needle in terms of actual muscle mass gained. Now, my final statement is I have seen a little bit of the recent study which has been promoted by Mike Israetel and Eric Helms about the need for larger surpluses not being valid. Now, all I'll say on that note is if you are using that to justify staying small, then fine. Fine. I don't mind. But then also make sure you are listening to the high volume research or the not to failure research. Don't cherry pick. Yeah. Don't just pick studies which support your bias. That's all I'll say on that. I think it could be valid, but it doesn't negate what I see in practice. That is large bulks where you spend a majority of your year pushing up 20 to 50 pounds while doing what you can with diet and with cardio to try and stay somewhat lean. That is what actually transforms a physique, not these short, pissy 10-pound ups and downs. Okay. And that is how I did it. And that is how every YouTube content creator that I know has done it. So there you go. I will call it there. Hopefully that was an important lesson for you guys. And if you are in the middle of a bulk, don't cut it short. I know summer's coming up, but think long term. Where do you want to be in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time? Do you still want to be doing these little pissy up and down bulks where you don't actually change your physique? That's not how you get big. Not how you get lean. Right, folks, I will call it there. Hopefully you are all good. I will see you in the next